Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Business Suit, the podcast that gives you the information and inspiration you need to thrive at work and beyond. I'm Kylie Carr, your host, and I am thrilled today to have Jaye Frank with us. Tara, welcome to Beyond the Business Suit.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Here too.
Just a little song. Just a little song for the people. I am so happy to be here with you. Just as we were talking about the very first time I met you, I felt like we should be friends, and that I should have reached out right away and told you that. But here we are. So the universe has a way of doing its thing. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And as I told you before we started recording, I feel the same way. I felt the same way. And we met for the first time. I was thinking about that this morning. It was in 2015 and at the Network of Executive Women conference. Yep. And I was pregnant. I don't even think I was showing yet. I don't even know. Maybe had I started telling people yet? I must have. I think I was into my second trimester. But yes, I remember that in Dallas, which I used to live in, where you live in the Dallas area.
Yep.
And that was a good time. And I know that there is divine timing in everything. And I am so glad that we are here today to have an important conversation, and who knows where the conversation will go.
But I'm so glad you said that. That takes the pressure off.
Right?
I get in spaces like this with people like you, and sometimes things happen, beautiful things that I don't plan. So it always makes me feel better when the person who I'm in the space with acknowledges that sometimes it just takes on a life of its own. But we will do our best to be orderly in all of that.
Yes, right. We are on LinkedIn and all, but you know what? LinkedIn, sometimes we need to bring a little bit more to LinkedIn than is there today. So for all of you all who are watching us live, and I did end up streaming this on Facebook Live as well. So wherever you're joining us, please drop a hello in the comments. Let us know how you're doing, where you're viewing us from. We would love to hear that. And if you have any questions during our time together, please shoot them into the comments and we will do our best to answer them. And know that there's a little bit of a delay. So it may take a few seconds before we do, but we will definitely take a look at that. Tara, I would love for you to start off by sharing with us some of your brilliant background and some of the path and the journey that you've taken in order to get to the incredible work you do today.
Thank you for asking that. I really enjoy telling this story, honestly. Every time I tell it, I relive it in a way. And when I do, I get more grateful just at how everything kind of came together. So I'll try to do this in a time effective way. So I spent 21 years at Hallmark Cards. And I start there because the shift in my professional journey really kind of happened because of and on the tail end of that 21-year experience, right? I started my career as a greeting card writer, which is, not a lot of people actually know greeting card writers personally, but they are real people.
Right, they exist. It's
they
not
exist.
Just a computer somewhere.
We are real people, yes, who get to know other real people's needs and emotional lives and kind of translate that into real work that gets put on real product, right? Mm-hmm. So, I was born in New Bedford, Massachusetts. I'll share that first of all. Very tight-knit family. I went to Spelman College. I graduated from there. I actually had an internship with Hallmark after my junior year, and then ended up going back to start there full time. So started as a greeting card writer, grew up in creative product development. After that, which there were a lot of roles kind of along those lines, one of the most memorable experiences for me during that creative product development stint was I worked directly with Dr. Maya Angelou for a decade.
No
I
way.
was, yes, I was
I'm
her editor, her editorial partner, the kind of creative director for the products that we made with her. And so that in and of itself is, was a very transformational experience. But I had a lot of really cool experiences working at Hallmark. We were also able to bring a collection into the company with Jill Scott, which was, she's fantabulous as well. So that was great. But after the creative product development stint, I became a VP of business innovation. So I led a business innovation platform and then designed and stood up Hallmark's Multicultural Center of Excellence. And what that was really is helping all of the consumer facing divisions better understand, right, how America was evolving demographically and helping folks figure out how to translate that understanding to retail solutions, right, to product solutions, to marketing, to retail strategy. So worked closely with consumer understanding and insight and marketing and product and customer development, et cetera. After I did that, I led that organization for a little bit. I became the corporate culture advisor to the president and the CEO at Hallmark. And I did that for a year. And in that year, I co-developed a DEI strategy, enterprise-wide strategy, in partnership with an HR colleague. And then there were some things that kind of happened in there that really shifted my trajectory. So I think it's important to tell people that at one point in my career, I was in succession for corporate officer for a role that I had wanted for, that I had dreamed about is probably more fair to say than wanted, that I had been preparing for, right? Not only mentally, but practically, experientially. And then somewhere in there, I fell in love again. I had been divorced. I fell in love again and realized I was going to have to move to Dallas, Texas. So that's me skipping over a bunch of stuff. But when I realized I was going to have to move to Dallas, right? I knew that was going to change my relationship with my company because the company was very community oriented. It's a family owned private company. They're deeply entrenched in Kansas City, and preferred that their executives at that level also live in Kansas City. So I knew, right, that I was sacrificing something professionally with that move. And I went through a bit of a mourning period. It was never people say, was it hard to make that choice? No, it was not hard to make that choice. I knew what my values were. I knew that it was a priority for me to reestablish a sense of family, right, for myself and for my children. So making the choice to get remarried and move to Dallas, that was never in question. Still, though, right, there was a mourning period I went through about where I was headed professionally and how that had to change. So I stayed with the company for a little while longer, which is, part of the Multicultural Center of Excellence work, and certainly all of the corporate culture advisor work. I was already in Dallas at that time. And I just kind of got to the end of that year and realized, this is it for me. Like, I'm not going to grow here anymore. This is as high as I can get. This is as much as I can do. This is as big an impact as I can have. And they didn't want me to go, but I was not ready to stagnate. I was not done doing my work, right? And giving more to the world. And so I resigned and kind of poured myself full time into my consultancy, which started really focused on leadership development, and then now is very much focused on corporate culture and the role of the CEO and his executive team in defining, right, kind of nurturing and sustaining cultures where everyone can thrive. So that's kind of been my little trip.
Whew. And what a journey. What a journey. I have so many questions and I'm like, okay, we don't have enough time for me to ask all of the questions that I want to ask because you have had to shift throughout your life, probably throughout your life, but
Yes.
also within your career, you have had to make many shifts, right? You've had to say yes, you've had to show up. So from writing greeting cards to editing and then getting into the multicultural center of excellence, that's a big, that there are a lot of things that needed to take place. A lot of like, so I'm just curious, and we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but I am just really curious. In those moments where you've had to make those big shifts, what were some of the things that you experienced? What are some of those things that you have been able to draw into, other experiences you've had because of those shifts and pivots that you've had?
I think that's a really good question. So there is something that I want to draw out, because it really has shaped the way everything, all of my work has kind of moved forward, right? So one of them is the reason I even ended up in the Multicultural Center of Excellence stuff is because as a product developer, I recognized that the only way we were going to be able to sustainably meet consumer need as it evolved was to have a more diverse workforce. And so my passion for, right, talent and diversity and inclusion actually was born out of a business need. I was like, look, we can keep having focus groups all day, every day, right? We can continue to do this, but guess what? If you actually had more people in this organization whose lived experience, right, reflected that of those we're trying to reach, then we would be able to do a lot of this work intuitively. We would not have to rely so heavily on all of this research and all of these focus groups. We could be the kind of organization that intuitively knew, right, not only what people need today, but the needs that are emerging. And so I got really passionate about the fact that diversity and inclusion and multicultural marketing and development were two sides of one coin.
Yes.
And that continues to impact my work today because, as you know, I ended up in culture work, a shift from leadership development work for the very same reason, right?
Yes.
Recognizing that it's important to develop the vine, to make sure the vine can thrive, right? To check on it, to figure out what it needs to be successful. But if the vineyard is dry, the vine will not thrive. And so for me, my focus on culture became kind of a journey or a body of work around helping leaders who build culture, who sustain culture, who nurture culture, helping those people create more fertile soil, right? For people of color, for Black and brown people, for women to thrive in. So that's kind of how I ended up here. That was a major shift for me to realize there are two sides of this coin. What side of the coin, right, do I believe I can make the biggest, most far-reaching impact on? And so that's kind of what landed me here.
I love that. And it's, I love the analogy too of the fertile ground and the vine in the vineyard. And I would imagine I'm sensing that you are probably both probably close to equally analytical and creative. Would you say that?
Oh, that's a little strong. I am, yes. So here's what I'll say. I'm very introspective, but I'm also, I'm very reflective about everything. So I'm a very thoughtful person. And in that way, I'm analytical, meaning like, what is going on here exactly? Who is it impacting most? What are the drivers, right? What are the levers to pull? What order can we pull them in order to be successful? Like I think a lot, right, about the processes that lead to the kind of outcomes I dream about. So in that way, I'm analytical. But
And that's what I mean by
yes,
analytical.
yes,
Like
but
you are thoughtful, you
very
calculate,
thoughtful.
you take in different information,
Seek
you
patterns, all of
yes,
that.
yes,
Yes.
and I say that because how how you arrived at certain places is similar to how I have arrived in certain places. It's like, you get into a role and then you're like, okay, hold on. This can't be successful if. So, I'd love to dig into this even further, this idea about leadership development and culture, because I have found my way into leadership development and have been really immersed, especially over the past, I'd say, 4 years of my practice. Although I'd been doing work with leaders for a long time beforehand. And what I found is that, and I've heard you say this before as well, is I can give somebody the tools they need. I can develop them. I can develop them. I can make them, I can help them become a better leader. But if they go back to their organization and that organization is not going to help them thrive, then there's only so far that I can take them. So I have had more conversations lately with those organizations to ask them more questions about their practices, their philosophies, their culture, to ensure that, to what you were just saying, that ground is fertile. So I'd love to explore this more and learn even more about this work that you're doing, and what have you seen take place, and really some of the best practices you've observed that companies who are doing this well.
Yeah. So, great question. And, I think what you described, just to start with, developing people and giving them tools and resources, and even, quite frankly, right, building not only their competence, but their confidence. And I
Yes.
think those are two sides of a coin as well. I witnessed that sometimes we were doing that and then throwing people back, to the wolves. And I know that sounds dramatic. I'm not trying to say that leaders and companies are wolves, but you know what I'm saying. It's like
Mhm.
you bring people into a space, you zhuzh them up, you support them, you make them feel like anything is possible. And then they go back to work and they're like, no, nothing is
Hold on.
possible. It's not possible. And so where my dream started, honestly, was I want these women, and especially, Black and brown women, honestly, I just clearly have a passion for that, to be able to
Yeah.
go back into these companies and actually leverage all of these things they learned. Like,
Yes.
have the opportunity to bring those gifts forward, to contribute in meaningful ways to the outcome of the organization, and of the business. So best practice for me, some of it, I think many of us who work in equity know it. We say you got to start at the top, and it's a very, it's a common phrase, but I literally, that's where I start. Like, my work is with CEOs and their executive teams. And so lately, here are a few of the things that I've been up to, especially in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. Because let's go back to our vine and vineyard analogy for a moment.
Mhm.
An added complexity right now is the climate. So if you think about a vineyard, like a real live one, you have the vine, you have the vineyard, but the climate has a whole lot to do, right, with
Yeah.
how you have to tend to the vineyard. If you're in a super dry climate or a moist climate, like, all of that matters. And your output, right, is conditioned upon how you kind of manage the soil. So the social climate over these last several months has also, brought about kind of a whole new host um, of of engagements, right, that executives need to have with their organization. It has required them to communicate differently. It has required them, to have very difficult, right, and emotional conversations that they have never had. I don't mean just at work. I mean, like, in life.
Ever in life. Right.
Difficult conversations at work that they've never had, to cultivate those spaces where those conversations can transpire, right? and then figure out what to go do about it. So you have that social climate, and that's really changed things for a lot of people. And so what you have in the CEOs and executive teams are these extraordinarily accomplished, right, brilliant, successful, focused, business-oriented human beings who have found themselves at a loss.
Yes.
About how to lead right now. And so I am helping them, quite frankly. Like, first, I'm helping them through realism. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I'm helping them understand what is going on with race in America today by helping them understand the root of racism in this country, how it has manifested over the centuries, which systemic aspects of it are still in play, and how those systemic, pieces continue to manifest and impact their employees in real time. So like, we're having those kinds of conversations. We're talking about, voter suppression, and the 15th Amendment and what happened immediately after that. We're talking about codes. We're talking about, we're talking about all of those things. We're talking about the wealth gap. We're talking about the Great Depression and the Social Security Act, and how 50% of the workforce was excluded. And most of those, were domestic and agriculture workers, many of whom were Black. We're talking about all of those things because I want them to understand that this is not just about, Black and brown people feeling tired or sad or scared. This is also very much about equity. And this is also very much about opportunity. And this is also very much about psychological safety, all of which they can impact and influence. And they have to. So the realism is a big part of it. The second part is responsibility. So
Before we move on to responsibility, I'm curious, how has that been going over? Because these conversations, these educations that you're providing to them in the under the lens of realism, right? It can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And many of them who are, I'm sure, brilliant people who think that they know a lot of things.
And they do.
And they do
a lot of certain kinds of things.
Yes. And it can be uncomfortable to hear things for the first time, right? And to feel like they're in a space that they can take it in and process and go through those emotions too. So how has that been going?
So I will tell you my secret weapon. It's been going extraordinarily well. And then I'll also be honest and tell you, I've had a couple of them that have been challenging. And I'll share why without, revealing too much. So I have had this conversation in intimate spaces. And when I say intimate, I mean 25 people, 20 people, 15 people, 12 people. I've had this conversation, the realism and the responsibility and the relationship piece, with over 300 executives in the last few months. So I've been in a lot of these conversations, and they go best when their CEO has been very clear about, it's been him in every case so far, about his intent, about his commitment, right? People listen differently, and the conversations have been very productive, generally speaking. Some of them have even been emotional, There have been some tears, there have been some, hard conversations and engagements. But my secret weapon that I've been using is I ask all of them to read Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail in its entirety first. So we start every conversation by sharing reflections about the letter. And so when we meet in this place of insight already. Like, that letter in its entirety is so powerful and touches on so many aspects of this problem that people have already had their own aha moments before we even get into the space together. And by asking each and every person to share it, what we're doing is accessing each other's humanity. And so if I can get them to access each other's humanity, to access mine, if I can access theirs, then everything we talk about after that, we have found a common ground already. So that's really powerful, because it's important for me to create a psychologically safe space for these majority white men and white women, and occasionally a brown person here and there, for me to create a psychologically safe place for them to learn.
Right.
So that they can be the kinds of leaders they want to be. So that's kind of one of the ways that I do it. And that's one of the reasons why it's been so successful. Now, on the flip, I've had a couple of them get, sticky. And one of them, I think, got sticky because, people come from different parts of the world. When you're talking to groups like this at this level of play, it's not all Americans, right, in the room. People come from different parts of the world. And so they bring their own lenses, right, and their own cultural assumptions and all of that. And we did have one, where somebody kind of said, well, we're talking about all this, but, what about the white men coming to me and telling me that they're now going to lose their opportunity? Like, why are we trying to take opportunity away from white men? So, that's not a question I've not had before. Had that question lots of times. So I tell the truth always, and I say, well, part of the challenge with that thinking is it assumes that the opportunity belongs to the white man in the first place. For someone to be afraid that somebody will take an opportunity away from them assumes that it belongs to them in the first place.
That's good.
And that is part of the challenge here, that we need to provide equal access to opportunity for everyone. So that's one piece of the answer. The other piece of this, honestly, is I go to the data, I'm like, okay, well, I think that's fair. Is it a real concern for them that they may miss out on opportunity as a result of us having these kinds of conversations? So I gave them an example and told them that one time I had a client ask me that. And I said, well, according to your data, 92% of your leaders are white men. So is it a real and present concern for you that white men will somehow be disadvantaged in their lifetime at your company as a result of us having this conversation? Which kind of ended the conversation.
I'm sure it did. What I love about you, Tara, like your energy, it's so calm. I'm trying to think of the right word. It's not calculated, like maybe a little bit, but it's more of like just this calm wisdom that you bring. That there's a strong, calm power that you have, that your mind is going so fast, it's clear. So I just love hearing you speak and hearing your perspective and how you deliver it, especially in those conversations, I'm sure makes an impact.
It does, but I think, you know what, Kylie, I think they also know that I believe in my soul. Like, I believe in their ability to do better. Like, I believe they have the capacity to lead inclusively, to behave, in ways that enable equity. Like, I really believe that. I believe each and every human being has creative power, that each of us has the capacity to learn and grow. I believe that we are inherently good, although we may not always behave in inherently good ways. And so I think that people see that I see their humanity, and that I respect that and even love it to a point. But I demand more of them. And honestly, we as people kind of respond to that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
When people demand more of us, we're like, oh, let me
Yes,
just, let me kind of
exactly.
stand up a little bit straighter. So I think that's part of it too.
Yes, and I know I interrupted you and took us on a tangent a little
No,
bit, but
that's
you were
good.
talking about the three things I believe that that organizations or how you approach this work.
Yeah. So the first is the realism. Like, let's be honest with each other about what's going on here, because acting like it's not a thing, is not helping. And we've been doing that for a while. The second piece is really just about the responsibility. In the letter from Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King talks about the white moderate. And in the letter, he talks about how disappointed he is in the white moderate, that he expected them to understand more about, the Negro plight, the way he talks about it, and to care about it more. And he's finding that they don't, that they're opting out, right? And so that's where he kind of talks about, that inaction is action is essentially the idea that he gets across there. Silence is complicity, right? All of that is built into that letter. And so one of the things I tell them is, with any change, with any major change, it's like tipping point theory. You have people on one end like, I'm ready, let's go, and you have people on the other end like, I like it this way. I don't want anything to change. But you always have the majority of the people in the middle. And in this case, as it relates to diversity and equity and inclusion, we've had the majority of people in the middle observing. Like, we just have a lot of fence sitters. They're watching what's happening, sometimes feeling badly about what's happening. They wish it were not happening. It makes them sad that it happens, but they don't necessarily see themselves as having a distinct role to play in changing what they are seeing. And so my call to action for leaders at this level is, nope, you have a distinct role to play here. This is not for your DEI leader or team of two to fix. This is not for your CHRO and all the HR leaders to fix. This is for you to fix. This is your company. This is your culture.
Yes.
You have got to get into the arena. And so it's not enough for me to just say that. I have to help them know how. And so that's part of the work as well, right? So that's the responsibility piece. And the last piece is about relationship. Like, guess what, friends? Part of why we're in this bad place is because we do not expose ourselves to people who are not like us. And when we do not have exposure to people across difference, we cannot become familiar with them. When we cannot become familiar with them, we cannot learn to trust them. When we do not trust them, we cannot build relationship. And when we don't have relationship, we can't open doors of opportunity. Right. So the relationship is a really important part for me of this story. It's why the sponsorship numbers are what they are. The last I saw, the COCOL research, which used to be Center for Talent Innovation, 1 in 4 white men had a sponsor, 1 in 8 white women, 1 in 20 like people of color. That's all genders, all right, all people who are not white. Like that. I mean, there it is.
Right.
There it is. I think it was also their research that said, or it might have been another source, forgive me, that outside of work, white people have 90 times as many white friends as they do Black friends. 90 times.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
We need to build bridges, we have to, and it's hard and it's uncomfortable sometimes, but it's necessary, because when we don't, we're the ones who are left out. Right. Of the power.
Absolutely. And some of it, even on our end, is cultural. I know many of us were taught, no, you go to work and you do your job. You put your heads down, you just do excellent work, be excellent.
Yeah.
And
people will notice and you'll
they
get
will
what you
notice.
deserve.
Exactly. It's meritocracy.
Yes.
And that's just not the case. And it's interesting. It's every program that I deliver, we talk a lot about relationships and building trust. And it's in those informal interactions with people where people can see that we are all human beings and there are things that we have in common. And in fact, I'm launching a leadership development program in the beginning of the year specifically for Black women. And I included that sponsorship component because without it, there's only so far they're going to be able to go. Yes, I can have a mentor, but a mentor won't put their career on the line for you. They won't put their reputation on the line in all cases for you. But for someone to say, I champion you, I am behind you in your career, and there's trust built to get there, then I know that at least there's a chance. There's a chance that they can advance.
Yeah, so true. You are dead on.
Well, I would love to hear from you because you've both worked with many Black and brown women and helping them advance. And now you're focusing a lot of your energy on the C-suite and helping them create these spaces for them to advance. For the Black and brown women who are listening to us or watching us right now, what advice do you have for them in their journey, especially if they have the ambition to go really far and really high within their organization or someone else's organization?
Yeah, this is such a good question, and I have so many answers, so I'll just pick two. One thing I would say is develop your external network. So to your point earlier about we go into the organizations, we put our head down, we do really good work. And to be clear, the best way to keep doing what you're doing into perpetuity is to be the best who ever did it. And that's it. So you go in there, you do a job, you're the best who ever did it. They're going to give you the beautiful prize of getting to continue to do that and only that forever. So develop your external network because our networks can be really insular, right? We're in a company, we're busy, like we have life outside of that. And so who has time for all this? So LinkedIn is a great way to do that. I would say reach out to people, reach out to other Black women who are where you want to be, right? Because we are likely, and not in every case, like I've been unpleasantly surprised a time or two, I'm not going to lie, but we are likely to reach back if somebody says, look, I have this aspiration. I want to learn more about this. I just want to have a conversation with you about how you did it or what you learned. Reach out, develop those networks, develop those relationships, ask those questions. That's important because sometimes opportunity comes to you because of the people who know you, not the people you know, but the people who know you. I had to do the look over my glasses on that.
I love it.
And that really matters. And I encourage anybody watching to reach out to me because let me tell you why, especially if you're looking to grow, right? And looking for different opportunities. People ping me all the time. I am not in the recruiting business. That is not my business at all. But people know that I know really brilliant Black women.
Same here. I'm getting hit up all the time. Like, do you know anybody who could?
I'm telling you what. They're like, do you know it? And right now they're looking for us. So they reach out to different people, me and Kylie, right? Like, do you know anybody who can do this? And sometimes these are C-suite roles that people are trying to fill. So I will say that one, broaden your network, reach out to people, develop relationships. Not only should you get to know people, you should let people get to know you. And the second thing I would say is be very clear about what great looks like for you. I think it matters that we take time to envision what we define as success in our own careers, like specifically, not per se, I want to be an SVP someday, but this is the kind of work I want to be doing. These are the kinds of skills I want to be using. This is the kind of impact I want to make. These are the people for whom I want to make it, right? If you
Yes.
can start to get a vision for what great looks like for you, then I think you can do two things. One, you can be really intentional about how you move toward it. And I tell people, build a bridge. And the bridge to me has four components. It's like, first, get a vision for where you want to go. But then what experiences do you need? What skills do you need? Which behaviors do you need to exhibit? And which relationships do you need to build to cross that bridge? So what
That's
experiences
good.
do you need to get? What skills do you need to develop? What behaviors do you need to exhibit? And what relationships do you need to build to cross the bridge, right? Get a vision, figure out how you're going to cross the bridge. That matters. But the other thing it helps you do when you get really clear about what great looks like for you is it helps you avoid trashy places. And I don't mean places as in
Yes.
companies per se. I mean situations.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be clear about what great looks like, and you find yourself in a position working for a person on a project, in a company, in a role that is not in alignment with your definition of great or safe or fulfilling, right? If you're aware of what those good things are, then you will be more in tune with when it ain't it.
Yes.
Right. And so that mindfulness to me, that consciousness is an important part of this career journey. I don't like to see people who feel stuck. And sometimes they feel stuck because they are not moving toward anything. They just know they don't like where they are, but they're
Yes.
not moving toward anything.
And they get caught up in the day to day, and we get busy, right?
Yes.
It's really important. I totally agree with you in that it's okay and it's imperative to give yourself permission to reflect on these things, because if you don't do it, then somebody else is going to pull you along, or not at all.
Yes.
And
You
then
will end up
you're
living
stuck.
out their idea of you,
Absolutely.
rather than who you really are. Can I take a moment? Hey, can I take a moment? Do you see
I
this?
want to see that. Yes.
Okay,
I
this
love
this
that.
T-shirt, which says "human," is
Yeah.
actually from blackforwardshop.com.
Writing that
Spelled out
down.
blackforwardshop.com. My friend, I used to work with her at Hallmark. Her name is Erica Keith, and she was a designer. She used to also be the creative director for Mahogany Cards for a while. Brilliant. Anyway, she just opened the shop, and I love this T-shirt. It makes me
I
super
love
happy.
that. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I need to
Yeah.
get one of those. I'm going to check out her site, blackforwardshop.com. And in the
Yes.
notes to this episode, I will include that link.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I'm sure she would
yes.
appreciate that. But I also just really love this T-shirt, and I wanted to
Yeah,
share.
I love the
We
shirt.
should have lots of
Right.
humans walking around.
We should. We should. Well, I know we are almost at our time, and I would love, if we can, to do a quick fire final
Yeah, let's do
five.
it.
Great. So I need you to pick 5 numbers between the numbers of 1 and 22.
Okay, so 3, 6,
Mhm.
9, 12, and 15.
Okay. Number 3 is, what was your first job?
Ooh, I worked in a retail store called Merry Go Round.
I knew you were going to say it before you said it. I
Really?
knew you were going to say it. Yes.
Merry
I don't
Go
know
Round?
why, but yes,
That's crazy.
I loved merry-go-round.
I worked
I'm
in Merry Go
like,
Round.
I loved me some
I
merry-go-round.
sucked at it though. That's where I learned that I am not like your typical salesperson person. Like I was so bad because I'm an introvert and a little bit, and I kind of struggle. But yeah, that was my first job.
That is so funny. Okay, the next one is, what do you think makes someone a good leader? Oh, this is a good one for you.
Mm.
What are 3 things that make someone a good leader?
Well, I believe every single human being at work wants to be seen, respected, valued, and protected.
Mm,
And if you can make the people in your charge feel seen, respected, valued, and protected, that is my new definition of a good leader.
that's good. That is good. If you could have brunch with 3 people, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Ah, Oprah Winfrey. I know I'm not alone in that.
No, I need to change this question to other than Oprah, what
I
other
know.
two
Wait,
people?
other than Oprah or Michelle
Yes.
Obama,
Right.
who was my second person?
Yes.
Brene
Oh,
Brown.
yes.
I'm a
Yes.
big fan. But if we were to say not Oprah and not Michelle Obama, I would say Brene Brown. I would say Auntie Maxine Waters.
Mm.
I'm so curious about just her journey and all the things she's seen and done. And then Dr. Cole. So Dr. Janetta Cole was the president of Spelman when I was there. She was amazing, and I have had the chance to spend some time with her. But my appreciation for everything she's done and achieved and seen has grown exponentially since I graduated from Spelman. So I'd love to have brunch with her.
Oh, that would be a great one.
Yeah.
So, who do you stand? Like, who is one person you absolutely adore and look up to?
Oh, it's so hard. There are so many. One person this is really hard because I feel like I stand all of the people who are doing God's work. And the way I think about God's work is making life and living better for everyone, and so a lot of people are doing that clearly. But I'm going to tell you, I have a thing for Soraya Shamali. Now, she wrote a book called Rage Becomes Her. And this book, I devoured it.
Wow.
I devoured it. And I don't know if that means it's because I'm angry or, just because I appreciate, just because it's so brilliantly written. But here's why I stand her. I'm going to tell you, because this is the kind of person I strive to be. She's a best-selling author. She's the book is brilliant. She goes really deep in research, and she kind of lays out all of these fascinating ideas in ways that I never thought of them before. And when I reached out to her, she reached back to me. She is now a friend. Like, she is a generous spirit. And guess what, friends? I don't ever want to be the kind of person who thinks so much of myself that I cannot even, respond to people who reach out to me with respect and regard. And that does not mean, don't get me wrong, I know some of us don't have time to respond to everybody. But what I'm talking about are there are some people who just habitually, I've made it here to this place. And so now I no longer have time to engage with all of these peon people. And so I just never got that vibe from her. And she's just so human and real. And I stand that. Like, I stand humanity.
Yes.
In people.
Yes. That needs to be a shirt.
Yes, like vulnerability, humanity. I love Minda too. Like, she's like that too. She's
I
so
see you
human.
on here, Minda.
She's just so real. Like, we need more of that, especially with each other. Like, come on, people. We got a lot of work to do. And I think if we can do it together, we'll be a lot better off.
Absolutely. And we shouldn't try to do it alone.
No.
We shouldn't.
No.
My last question is, you have a free day to do whatever you want for 24 hours. What do you do?
I eat cake.
What kind of cake?
Oh, chocolate cake. My favorite cake in all the land is P.F. Chang's Great Wall of Chocolate.
Wow.
I want to tell
I've never had it.
Girl, what? I want to tell anyone who is watching or listening to this right now that I am a chocolate connoisseur. Please understand that I have tasted all of the chocolate cakes that restaurants make. Like, that is what I order when I go. I have tasted all of the chocolate cakes. And this, to me, is the best chocolate cake I've ever had from a place like that, because it is the perfect balance of salt and sweet. Like some of them go way overboard on the sweet, and I
Mm.
can't eat the frosting. I can
Mhm.
only take 3 bites before I want to die. This one,
Okay.
yeah,
I might need to,
if you
in
like chocolate cake, I mean, do it,
well, I
but don't eat it cold. This is a really important tip.
ooh,
It
that's a good tip.
be
Pro tip.
has to be warm, like room temperature. And if you need to put it in
Mhm.
the microwave for like, a few seconds, then do that.
Do what you need to do.
Yes.
Tara, I just adore you. I really
This
do.
has been really fun. I'm so glad you invited me.
Thank you. I do want you to have the opportunity to share your information if people want to contact you, if they want you to come into their organizations. What's the best way for them to connect with you online or on social media?
Yeah, thank you for that. So my email is TaraJ initial at tarajayfrank.com. So TaraJayefrank.com. I am on Instagram at Tara J Frank, all spelled out. But honestly, that's not my platform per se. I'm on Twitter at Tara middle initial J Frank. But sometimes I say things on there I shouldn't. LinkedIn is the best place, honestly, to find me, to like work with me, or even get to know me, or benefit from the things that I share. And yeah, so that's probably the best. And I am working on a book, and I am receiving prayers and good vibes for the right partners. Like I saw something awesomely lovey Ajayi
Yeah.
wrote yesterday. She said that one of her simple prayers is, please send me the helpers, or show me the helpers. And so that's kind of like where I am in my process right now. I'm praying for God to reveal the helpers, because this tool that I'm writing is the tool that in the future I'll be able to hand to CEOs and their executives, and have them basically learn and understand and know, right, everything that I'm teaching them in person right now.
Ooh, I can feel that in my spirit. I'm sending you prayers as well,
Thank you.
that those helpers are revealed to you and that you birth this book into the world at the exact time the world needs it. So,
Amen. Thank you. I received that.
thank you so much, Tara. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. It's
And
almost Friday.
yes, and happy holidays to you and your family.
You
And thank
too,
you,
and to
everyone.
everybody.
Yes, thank you everyone who joined us. I see Tamika, Decatur, Minda, Sanji, and some other folks who I can't see your names, but thank you so much for joining us today. I will see you next time. In the meantime, everyone, shine that light that only you have, because when you do, it gives other people permission to do the same. Be well.
Thank you.